to be able to carry out our work effectively. So welcome to the Grant Readiness series. I'm really very excited, and our objective at Strategic Outcomes is to provide this opportunity as frequently as possible every month, where we get to have experts in the field come and share insights from donor perspective. So today we have the privilege of having Mr. Ayodeji Ojo. He's a senior program executive at Aspire Coronation Trust, ACT Foundation. And our special thanks to ACT Foundation for honoring the invitation and also providing this support to us to ensure that we make this opportunity available to passionate and mission-driven nonprofit leaders across Africa. So what we do at Strategic Outcomes is to help nonprofit leaders build the strategic systems that they need to attract funding and partnership opportunities. And like I mentioned earlier, the passion that drives us to do the work we do is not enough. This must be matched with strategic capacity and knowledge to be able to ensure that we're delivering transformative outcomes and experiences for the communities that we serve. At the end of the day, it's about the change that we can bring to communities. It's about the transformation and the improvement in the socioeconomic and political conditions of the communities where we serve. I always talk about sometimes where we have donor agency competition in our communities. You go to typical rural communities, we have lots of grassroots organizations, CBOs working in these communities, and we still have this steep level of social inequality. And now that goes to show that we need to do so much more in ensuring that we're delivering innovative solutions. We're actually bringing solutions that address the local contextual issues where we work. So today we're having the privilege of having this conversation around how we can initiate strategic relationships with donors. At the end of the day, it comes down to our ability to have access to resources in order to implement the solutions that we have in our community. So we have a couple of people joining this call from Kenya. We have Nicholas from Kenya, Dari from Nigeria, and Princess is from Uganda. And we also have Barwa from Kenya. So if you're joining the call, kindly drop in the chat section the location where you're joining this conversation from. So we have Ayor in the house. He'll quickly just say hello.
Good morning, everybody. I'm very excited to be with you. Thank you, Kawe, for the opportunity to engage. And I look forward to an exciting time with everybody here.
Yes, thank you so much. This is a privilege for me having to host one of the funding organizations, indigenous funders supporting African nonprofits to deliver their work in the community. So special thanks to ACT Foundation. So now we have Ayor in the house. He's a social enterprise enthusiast. He's a creative thinker, an innovator, an optimist, and a proven nonprofit leader. I was really inspired when I looked at his profile and I said, we cannot even have someone else better than this to really lead this conversation with us this morning. He's very knowledgeable in the grants administration. He has over 13 years experience managing programs, managing interventions in Nigeria. He is currently the Senior Programs Executive at ACT Foundation, Aspire Coronation Trust. And ACT Foundation is one of the largest funders we have supporting African nonprofits indigenous to Africa. And in the last 4 years, he has had the opportunity to support the team to sustainability needed for nonprofit and social enterprise. And if you're joining this call, kindly put your mic on mute so we have a clean sound and we're able to deliver all of the valuable information and content that we have this morning for all of you. So if your mic is open, kindly mute your mic. So before joining ACT, he worked with Enactus Nigeria and he was leading the team across special projects across Nigeria. And he was also working to build outstanding young leaders that create community development projects And one thing that is very inspiring about Ojo is his vast knowledge, capacity, and qualification in this area. So we're in for a wonderful time the next 1 hour. So before joining ACT Foundation, he worked with Enactus, and this organization is present in over 36 countries, present in over 1,500 universities globally. He attended various trainings and capacity building platforms in Nigeria and overseas. And he's currently serving as a judge at the prestigious Enactus World Cup in San Jose, California, USA. And he also represented Nigeria at the 2015 Enactus World Cup in South Africa and at Lagos Business School, International School of Management. He is also a member of the Queen's Young Leadership Mentor City and Micro Mentor program, supporting young aspiring social entrepreneurs. Now, Ayodeji Ojo is a fellow of the Institute of Management Consultant, Chartered Institute of Management, and a certified Prince 2 practitioner. So we have the best candidate for the job in the house. So thank you everyone you're joining. If you have not dropped your location in the chat area, leave a comment of where you're joining the conversation from. And I'm going to hand over the class right now to Ayodeji to do justice to the topic. I have my notepad and my pen ready to take a lot of notes and soak in all of the valuable insights that he's going to be sharing this morning. So welcome once again. I'll quickly share your slide and hand over the class to you. Thank you so much, Ayodeji.
Thank you very much once again, Rukawe. Very excited to be here, being joined by participants from, across Africa. And, this is a very interesting topic that, non-profit practitioners look forward to getting insights from. So, every single time.
Okay, Ayo, kindly unmute. I think I must have tapped on your mic. I'm trying to mute every other person that their noise is interfering with.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Yes.
Yes. Can you hear now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Fantastic. Okay. So thank you for this particular topic. Just in the early hours of this morning when myself and Ruka were, just having some bit of a chat, she kind of like shared a lot of insight as to, some of the challenges that nonprofits, would have either applying for grants or requesting for support, whatever the case is. As nonprofits, we look forward to every time requesting for support from either donors, individuals, philanthropists, across the board. We're always looking for money, so to say, constantly looking for money to be able to do what we love to do best, which is, development work, helping other people grow. And, this is a very interesting topic, which I'm just going to take the next 30 minutes or thereabout to look into. So I would need your rapt attention. And kindly please also feel free to, ask questions in between. I'm very open. You could either ask in between or you wait till we, complete the conversation. Then we can move on to the question and answer session that can help us, strictly get, something valuable from this. Now, looking at the topic, grant readiness. You ask yourself, what is it to be ready for grants? Can you ever be ready for grants? Maybe yes, maybe no. Sometimes we will do our best to ensure that we're ready, for that opportunity when it comes. Sometimes we can think that we're very ready and the opportunity may come and we may end up not being picked, so the question still remains, how ready are you? And that's what we're going to be discussing in the next few minutes as the case may be. But before I go ahead, I would like to just quickly take this quote so that we can understand a bit, look at it from a different direction. And it says, there is no grantsmanship that will turn a bad idea into a good one, but there are many ways to disguise a good idea. Now, you see, so this is for me, right? It says that there are fantastic ideas out there, but there is always one idea that the funder might see to be interesting to support. And you may be lucky enough that that idea is yours, or in some other cases you may just be unfortunate that they turn around to pick someone else. But in between the conversation, it still remains, how ready are you? How good is that idea? And this is how we want to basically look at it. What it is to be ready. What do we need to do as non-profits or social enterprise, to be ready for that big opportunity? And this would help. I'm going to look at this from 3 different angles. Next slide, please. I'm going to look at this from 3 different angles, right? And I'm hoping that by the end of the conversation today, we would have been able to solve or answer some of these key questions. What are the critical factors that that funder would basically look at for them to be able to make a decision on who to fund? How do we demonstrate credibility and competence? What is it? How do we do that? And the last one is, what is that plan? What is that sustainability strategy that we can say is a good enough strategy for funders to want to come on board on? And the last one here is looking at it from looking at it a bit not from a generic point of view now, but streamlining it more into what the foundation I work with, Act Foundation, one of the biggest non-profits in Africa right now, what we basically would look out for in terms of when we're giving out funding opportunities to non-profits. And I'm sure some of you who are here on this call would have tried once or twice, applying for our grants. And some of you also would think that it's very easy to get a grant. And for those of you who think it's very easy, some of you may also think it's a bit difficult, but with time you'll get to understand a bit more why some of these things are this way. And the last thing is to look at other opportunities that that are out there, from the Act Foundation point of view, that we can give to support what you do. Fantastic. Yes, so we're hitting the ground running, and I'm getting really excited. Now I just want to quickly share some key success points that we need to know. Innovation and creativity is important in every single thing you do. You need to be creative. You need to be innovative. Very, very important. You need to also look at, new solutions to old problems. You need to look at how do we solve old existing problems, but looking at it in a different way. COVID is giving us a different angle to a lot of these things today. Before now, I'm sure all your intervention would have been in-person intervention, physical intervention that you've been thinking of. But right now, you need to reinvent the wheel. You need to start thinking about it from either an hybrid perspective, or you're looking at an online engagement, just as we're doing right now today. And you may think it is very difficult, but the truth is there are ways to accomplishing some of these things, irrespective of how difficult you may think it is. The next thing I need you to understand is, how do you create creativity? Okay. That's a very big question. I'll leave that to you, to answer. The next thing would be the ability to communicate clearly and, very much on point, not just clearly, but you need to also be on point. The next thing, which is also very, very important to us, is, setting up the right team. When you look at some of these things, it helps you to align your thinking in the right direction. And now, moving on to the process, looking at the 4 basic points we've stated at the beginning, what would funders, really look out for? And like I said, I'm going to look at this from 2 different angles, right? I'm going to look at it from the program angle, and I'm going to also talk about it from, setting up the right structure. As an organization, as an entity, you want to be seen as that organization that can set up the right structure for any funder to support. Beyond just giving you money is not a problem, but the money they're giving to you, how well are you using that money? How are you able to accomplish what the funder wants to accomplish? So every funder, again, has a problem to solve. That problem can also be a need for the funder. So, the funder has a problem and they're looking for who to help solve that problem. The next point would be for the funder to go ahead to solving that problem, the funder needs to look for the solution. And in this case, you become that solution to the problem the funder wants to solve. You are coming in with the solution to the problem on ground. Don't forget, the funder has the resources, right? But in some cases, the funder may not have the time or the willpower to go ahead and carry on to solving that problem. So the funder is looking for a partner with the right solution, and that solution is you in this case. The next thing the funder usually would think of is this solution you're bringing on board. Yes, the solution is fantastic. Yes, the solution is good, but how scalable is this solution? Can this solution be replicated? How scalable is it? So yes, we know that the funder has a problem. We know that you are the solution. The next question is that solution that you're bringing on board. How scalable is that solution? Can the solution, beat the test of time, so to say? Can we take that solution pre-COVID and put it in the COVID environment? Would it still stand? So, there are a lot of nonprofits right now that are still proposing the same solution they proposed way back when, before COVID started. They are still proposing that solution right now. You know that it will not work. COVID has come in to change the scheme of things, and you need to readjust your mind to knowing that there has to be a different method to the solution solving. The next thing is the monitoring and evaluation plan. Beyond your program, these things are core variables that every program must have for a funder to say, we want to go ahead and give you that funding you need, or give you that support, either financial or technical support. But these are things that they would look out for. And these things are always within your proposal or within your program design, or whatever, however you want to call it. So, the next thing is the monitoring and evaluation plan. Do you have one in place? How strong is it? You may have one, but how strong is it? How good is that plan? The next thing will be your sustainability plan, which is, on our scheme of things, when we're talking, it was like the number 3 points we had listed that we want to achieve today. What is that, sustainability plan? Non-profits are driven by passion, and as such, they feel that we don't need to look at all of those. They are not very important, but the truth is the game is changing right now. You need to place a lot of attention to building a sustainable plan, a plan that can outlive you, even years after you're gone, that plan can still be on ground. So every funder would want to support a project that can outlive the implementer, a project that the target beneficiary can take over from and run with. The next thing we want to look at in this case would be the budget. You may look at it as the last thing, but the budget can drive the success of every other thing that has been mentioned right now. And we're going to look at how important the budget is to the scheme of things. The next aspect to it is, your board structure, which I talked about. A lot of funders would invest in you because of the structure that you have in place. This is not just the board, but the governance, so to say, talking about various policies that would help you thrive well as an organization, looking at it as, is the organization just me, I and myself, or is the organization an entity on its own that people can really invest in. Yeah. The next thing is looking at your social media presence. You want to be able to, we're in the technology age. So you want to be able to use the various technological tools that are available out there to build, to build that reputation that you're looking for. That, while you're not looking, people can see what you built online and can come looking for you and say, we want to invest in you, we want to support you. The next thing would be building the right team. Like they say, you can know how successful an organization is with the kind of team they have, with the kind of team members that are in that organization. If you have an organization with team members that are not very happy, you know that may be, a problem. And these days, you want to work with organizations that you know that their members are very, very happy and all of that. So, when you look at Arc Foundation is one of such. Very, very lively organization you really want to be part of. And I'm happy, I'm happy to be part of that network as well. Yes, the next big question now, after looking at all of these processes would be, ask yourself the very important question: why do people give? Why do people give? There's a reason why they give. Why do people, please, you can put it in the chat box while we're having this conversation. Just tell us, why do people give? Rukewe, you will help us after now, and we'll just basically, get some feedback. Let us know what people are saying. Why do people give? Why do you think organizations give? Not just organizations, there are philanthropists who give millions. They don't want to set up like an organization that would basically give. So it's just me, I have the money and I want to give to a cause. Why do people give? It's a very important question you must answer even before you start asking for that money. You need to understand, why do people give? This would also help you to look at the history of that organization you want to request funding from. It will take you back to looking at the history of that organization you want to request funding from. You need to understand why they want to give. What are the kind of supports? What are the kind of programs they would love to support? So that I am not, as an organization, I am not interested in supporting a football cause, but you are interested in sending me a proposal that talks about, solving health-related issues. What is the connection? Why do people give would help us understand. And, that will take us to, going back to the first thing we talked about, problem. People give because they want to solve a problem or they want to solve a need. They give because they want to solve a problem. Every donor or funder gives because they want to solve a problem. And in this case, you are that investment. So when they see a solution that is good enough, they would invest in it. So you need to see yourself as that investment. So if every funder is investing to solve a problem or solve a need or improve a situation, then you need to ask yourself, is my program in alignment with what the funder wants to achieve? Is my program or initiative, is it in alignment with what the funder wants to achieve? You need to ask yourself that very critical question. Before you start, getting too emotionally attached, or, I have applied severally, I have applied 5-6 times, I don't know what the problem is, they are not funding me. You need to ask yourself, do I have the right solution for that funder? The next thing here, beyond your solution, is to look at it from the angle of, when you're looking at your program, right? When you're looking at the full length of your program, you're asking yourself the question, is my program in alignment with what that funder wants to do? Am I in alignment? Is my program trying to solve a situation in environment, but the funder is very much interested in solving things in the area of health. Yes, there is a way you can, realign what you want to do to fit into what the funder wants to achieve. But, that will take a lot of craftsmanship. That will take a lot of putting in the right information and the right details into helping the funder to see why they should fund you or why they should part with that investment to you. The next thing is to look at it from the evaluation of your program. Did it go up or down? Were they happy? At the end of, whatever you're putting together and you're submitting, whatever feedback you get, you need to ask yourself the question. You need to evaluate, that particular thing you're putting in. Is it in line? Is it in line with what the funder wants? And this evaluation can take any form. Can take any form and can take any shape. You can evaluate it from your program. At the end of your program, you want to evaluate and ask yourself, were they happy with what we have implemented? Did we implement how the funder would want us to do it? The other aspect of it would be, did our program make any meaningful progress? And sometimes implementers may like to hide the fact. Sometimes a lot of those funders are also, humans like us. So they see these things. Some of them have years of experience implementing projects themselves. So they understand anything you try to hide. So the best thing for you to do is not to hide anything, but to rather, tell them the big picture and how everything is going on the field. So, beyond making them happy, you want to ask yourself, was the program successful? Now, the next thing you want to look at is, you want to look at it from the sustainability angle that we talked about, right? From the sustainability angle, you're looking at it, from different angles, right? You want to look at it, like myself and Ruka was just, chatting this morning. You want to look at it from the financial sustainability. How financially sustainable is this program? You want to look at it from the implementation, the initiative itself. How sustainable is it? After implementing in a particular community, can that community take full ownership of it? Can they say that we have done well? Can we allow the community to take full ownership of it? Is that how your program has been designed? You need to also think about it from an angle of what happens when the funding ends? What happens when money runs out? So what happens if the funder decides for the next year we cannot continue funding you? What happens to that initiative? Can the funder come back? Can the funder come back to your program 2 years after completion? And will they really meet anything on ground? For example, if they say they want to do end of project evaluation, and they come back, let's say 3 years to do some impact assessment of the program they have funded, because every implementer would do such impact assessment. We do it here. We look between 3 and 5 years and we say, long after we've completed the relationship with you, we go back and say, we want to see the investment we made in this organization. Is it still running? So you want to ask yourself the question when you're designing your program, is my sustainability plan sustainable over time? Financially, is it sustainable? Program-wise, is it sustainable? Can the community take full ownership of it? When we run out of money, can this program still have a life of its own when the money stops coming 1 year after? So you need to think about this critical question. And I'm throwing these things to you because I want to be able to get questions that can further guide us in this conversation, which is why I'm not closing all of this out to say, this is what you must do. These are just body of knowledge that, if you constantly put into practice, can help you be in the right place at the right time. to get that kind of funding you need. You know, the next thing in this case, which a lot of times we can always say it's more like the most important thing in your project. We can almost say it is the most important thing in your project. You want to look at the budget. You know, you want to do the math. You want to add up things. I will tell you that a lot of times, I'm trying not to exaggerate now, but I want to tell you that a lot of times, a lot of organizations get kicked out of the process, not because they don't have a very good initiative, not because they don't have a very good idea, but because their budget is either overinflated or there is a lot of misrepresentation of figures that you know, when you look at the program, you will see that there is something missing. Don't forget that people who are reviewing your proposals or your initiative are also experts in the field. They understand these things quite much, very, very much, you know, better than you do. So they know when you are misappropriating one figure to a certain line item. They can trace it. You know, they can go back to the program and say, oh, you said you want to do this here. And I know that for you to do that, this is how much it may cost, you know, give and take. This is how much it may cost. So imagine an organization that is, you know, XYZ wants to implement a project in a community and they want to reach out to 150 target beneficiaries, and they are proposing $100 million. $100 million just to reach, you know, just 150 target beneficiaries. And when you look at the cost, well, you may say it's not bad. Yes, things are very expensive, so it may not be very bad. I agree. But when you now go to the breakdown of the budget, you're not trying to understand what they want to spend money on. You would see that a lot of the cost is either being pushed to, you know, something else, and you're wondering, the main target audience that should be benefiting from that cost, the main program that should be benefiting from that cost is not being taken care of. So why is the cost being pushed to another direction? And you know your cost can be in two forms. You can have your cost, you know, in the indirect form and, you know, in the direct form as well. The direct cost in this case would be costs that are directly linked to program implementation. You know, a lot of funders would always want to see it from these two angles, right? They want to see what your direct cost would be. Your direct cost in this case, as I said, would be the costs that are directly related to the program, to the implementation of the program. And when you look at it from the other side, your indirect costs, on the other hand, are costs that are more administrative. So administrative in this case could be operational costs that are related to the organization. So maybe we want to, you know, pay for rent. We want to pay staffs, you know, staff that would basically get the work done. You know, communication time. We want to buy it. You know, so you know those different costs that are more administrative to the foundation can be placed under your indirect cost. And you know, like I said, this is like the most important part of your program. The most important part. You may have a very interesting program on one hand, but when it comes to the budget and the funder cannot tie the cost you're requesting for in relation to the program, then no matter how beautiful your program is, they will basically just put it aside. They will just throw it one side and say, let's move on to another organization, which is why you see a lot of times people would say, my program was fantastic. My program, you know, I've thought through these things carefully. My program looks good. But what is happening? I can't just understand. Please go back to your budget and look at your budget again. You know, your budget can define whether a funder comes on board or not. You know, another very most important thing, again, is looking at the structure. Now we have looked at, you know, core programs, so to say. The other thing is for a lot of nonprofits, you know because we are driven by passion, we just run out there to start the good work without realizing that these days, if you want to be taken seriously, then you need to do the serious work. And the serious work would start with you putting proper structure in place. And one of the things I try to do while doing a bit of research on how this conversation should go is understanding the role of your board, how your board can help build, a more sustainable system for you. So when you look at your board and an organization, the funder can likely tell you if they will fund you or not by just looking at the kind of people you have on your board. They may not waste their time looking at your program, looking at your budget, but they just basically want to go to the board. Who are they? Okay, so I don't know you from anywhere as an organization, but you're saying I should invest in you, right? Yes, I want to invest in you, but who are the people supporting you right now? Who are the people directing your affairs right now? Who are the people helping you to, to know what direction you should go? Your board is that, that group that would help every funder understand that you are serious and you mean business. So for those of you here, if you have, family members on your board, it's not a bad thing, right? But it just means that funders may not take you as serious as they should, right? So you need to re-strategize. You need to go back to the drawing board and look at what you have on ground, as a board, as against a family structure. You need to put in the right set of people. Imagine you have, Dangote is known to be the richest man in Africa right now, at least from the last time I checked. And imagine you are just a very small organization, maybe in Kenya, and you're just doing it, you're doing your work with a passion, with a lot of zeal, just within your small community, but you have someone like Dangote on your board, right? You have someone like Dangote on your board, or maybe someone like Bill Gates on your board. I bet you if any funder was to see that, they would quickly jump on board because of that particular name you have there. That doesn't mean that you cannot look for other prominent individuals to bring on board. And don't forget, beyond just bringing them on board, they can open a lot of doors for you. They can push you to the right direction. They can help you see the reason why you need to do things in a certain way. Don't forget, these people will come on board with wealth of experience, wealth of knowledge to help guide your affairs. So you need to look at it from that angle. You need to think about it critically. Don't forget, you need to put in place policies, policies that would help you, sort of tell your funder that you have things in check. Do you have HR policies? Do you have, welfare-related policies? Different things that no matter how little you may think it is, you need to put in the work. Money is a very important thing, at least from this part of the world. Money is a very, very, very important thing, which is why every now and then we're all in search of that financial support. And for you to request for that financial support, you need to put yourself in that place where people or funders or donors or philanthropists can start taking you very seriously. Again, you need to be able to tell a story about yourself. Convincingly, you need to tell us who you are. Why should we support you? You need to be clear about what you want to do and how you want to do it. Don't forget, if there is a misalignment between what you do as an organization and the funder you're requesting funding from, you will definitely not get that funding. No matter how beautiful your idea may be, no matter how tangible your budget might be. But if your background as an organization does not support our own vision as an organization, we will definitely not fund you. You will definitely not get that financial support you are looking for. So rather than you just going all around looking for multiple funders, sit back, do a deep search, and look for organizations, funders, donors that align with your vision and approach them. Approach them through your program, through your proposal. And while you're putting your proposal together, you're also thinking of what that funder wants to achieve to ensure that your proposal is in alignment, your initiative is in alignment with what that funder wants to achieve. Don't forget, I said there is a problem, there is a need, you are the solution. So you need to think from it as the solution provider. As a solution provider, you need to always ask yourself, am I providing the right solution that the funder needs to be able to accomplish what they want to solve? Yes, we are moving on very quick. And at this point, I would like to say it's very important for you to play by the rules. Play by the rules. Very, very important. At Tax Foundation, we've realized that when people apply to us, sometimes they don't look at the guidelines that have been set before them, that have been shared with them. A lot of times they are just so much in a hurry to apply. Yes, it's good for you to apply, but you need to be sure that you have crossed every dot before applying. So you need to get the guidelines. And some of these guidelines for us, if you go to our website, you would find a lot of the guidelines that would help you understand what we're looking out for. The guidelines are out there. We've placed it out there for you to understand. You need not just to get the guidelines, you need to study in this case, not just read. You can glance through, that may cover reading for you, but you need to study every single line that has been placed out there for you to understand before applying. Then, the last thing, you need to follow those guidelines. You need to follow. See, because there are too many people applying for funding, because there are too many people requesting for funding, there is the likelihood that you would easily be kicked out with any slightest mistake. With any simple mistake that comes up, you can easily be kicked out. So, that will take us to looking at some of the, I said some important reasons why your request fail or why they kick out your request. The first thing could be you not meeting up with deadlines. You didn't meet up with deadlines, and not meeting up with deadlines could be as a result of you not preparing adequately or quick enough or early enough. Also not following guidelines. Nothing intriguing about your proposal. We can't see anything interesting about your proposal or your initiative. You didn't also meet some important priorities for the organization or foundation. Don't forget, funders have a problem that they want to solve. So you've not met up with their priorities. Your initiative is also not complete, either not having sufficient budget or sufficient information that would help the funder make a quick enough decision, or something not complete about what you're sending in. Also poor literature review. You want to give a background of why your initiative is existing, and you're doing a poor, review of what the problem is. So you need to look at these things. Sometimes your initiative may also appear beyond the capacity of the project team. You may have, so you are requesting for $50 million, but you only have three people without sufficient qualification to manage $50 million. So there is a problem somewhere. Your methodology for implementing is also weak. You've not put enough thought or enough work to it. Unrealistic budget, we talked about already. Your budget doesn't seem realistic to achieve the initiative you want to do. So when we look at these things, you can easily tell these are just some mistakes. The cost is also greater than the benefit. When you look at it, the cost at the end of the day, the project outcome, and the cost you are putting, a lot of these things, these are some of the variations you can get. Poorly written proposals, and the last thing, mechanical defects. You will tell me what mechanical defect means here in this case. But these are some of the reasons. There are more reasons, but these are just some of the reasons to why proposals, why you don't get funded at the end of the day. And, quickly to the last question rather, which is what, apart from funding requirement, what else would a foundation like Art Foundation, how else do we support, some of the work you do? If you're following us on all our social media pages, you would notice that we're going to share that with you, how you can follow Art Foundation on all our social media accounts. It will help you understand that we have a lot of training programs. Right now at the foundation, we do almost every month, there is one form of training or the other that can help you understand a bit differently the mistakes you're making. And for us, we're not just putting out training programs because we want to put out training programs. Those training programs have been specially designed because of the challenges we have observed within the system. So those training programs have been specially designed to achieve some of those purposes, to help you understand, what you should do differently when you're preparing yourself for grant or preparing yourself for the next level. At this point, I'd like to say a very big thank you for listening to me. Rukewe, I hope to you. I think we still have some time to take questions.
Yes. Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ayodeji. My notepad is already filled up with a lot of insights that you have shared. And I'm really, really excited at this opportunity to get to really understand things deeper from a donor's perspective. Now, I know a lot of us, we have questions. We already have some that have been dropped in the chat area. So if you have a question, you can either drop it in the chat area or you raise your hand and we'll call you so that it will be orderly. So if you have a question and you want to speak up, just raise your hand and we'll call you to drop your question, or even if you have a comment that you want to contribute to the conversation, then I'll quickly go over to the chat area to pick the questions here. Now, the very first question that came in was from Okosi Izuchukwu. He asked that the point of having a good board is noted, but does it mean that without a prominent person on the board, a non-profit organization's chances of being funded are limited? Then secondly, for continuation's sake, I think this refers to sustainability. Would non-profits need to get funds from other sources outside the funder?
Okay, to quickly answer the first one, thank you very much. So making reference to a prominent person, in this case, I only just use that as an example. You don't need to have somebody that prominent to be on your board. However, every funder, so let me try and put it this way. So when a funder wants to part, they need some sort of collateral, because don't forget, they don't know you from anywhere. The only collateral they can bank on is the people on your board. That is the only assurance they have that if anything goes wrong, if you decide to take the funding and maybe you decide to, disappear from the face of, this planet, who can they look back on, or who can they hold accountable for anything that goes wrong? It is only your board. And in this case, beyond just investing in you, they are also investing in the credibility that your board brings on board. So, so it doesn't mean if you cannot get the likes of Dangote or the likes of Bill Gates on your board, it doesn't mean that your board, putting any other person on your board will not be good enough. It can, but my point is, move your board beyond family and friends. Bring in people that can help guide you towards the right direction. And that can just help set you in the right path. Because, for example, imagine your board, one of your board member happens to be working in maybe one of these multinational, or let me say Rukewe, for example, she's on your board. Because of her background and wealth of experience, don't forget, the funder would always search who she is. And when they see the wealth of experience she brings on board, it helps them to have that peace of mind that you are in the right hands and their money is in the right place. So that's what it is. The other question with sustainability is, so it is sometimes advisable that you do some level of groundwork. It is not compulsory that you must bring on board what, in this case, counterpart funding. It's not compulsory. But sometimes it helps that you can show some bit of credibility by saying, we're not just banking on your money alone, but we are already pushing for XYZ. So the project in itself is 50 million, but we want you to contribute. We want you to contribute about 30 million. The 20 other million, these are the plans to get the 20 other million. In fact, we have gotten 5 million out of the 20 million. 3 other philanthropies or organizations have promised us, the remaining 15 million, but we are yet to close out on that conversation. It tells the funder that you are not just sitting there and waiting for their funding alone. It tells the funder that you are also working on your own. And it also tells the funder that if they decide to give you or not, the project would go on. And yeah, that's how best I can approach those two questions. Any other question? I hope I was able to do justice to that.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. So we have a couple of hands raised up. We have Emmanuel Edet. So kindly unmute yourself and ask your question or make your comment. Emmanuel Edet, young, smart.
Oh, good morning, Coach, and good morning, Mr. Ojo. I think it's quite educative here. We are learning. Then my question is in respect to indirect costs that has to do with the rent. Let's assume that, for example, my rent is 2 million naira in a year for the cost of the office. Then I have maybe a grant that I'm writing for maybe 10 million, 15 million naira. So my question is, am I supposed to integrate the rent cost into the indirect cost? Am I supposed to put all the 2 million naira there? That's number one. Then number two, then this question goes to Mr. Ojo. Then I want to ask, how does the Art Foundation encourage the emerging organization like us, the young organization? So what funding structure do you have in place? Or is this still the general funding structure that big organizations are also competing with that you have for smaller organizations? That's my question. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ed.
Yeah, thank you very much, Emmanuel. Thank you so much. So, in trying to approach your first question, indirect cost. So, for example, if your project is supposed to be 6 months, right? And your rent for a year is 2 million. The question you want to ask yourself, does it make any financial sense for you to be requesting 2 million from your funder when your project will not last for a year? That is the first angle to it. So, whenever you're putting that under your indirect cost, you're capturing it as your administrative cost. Sometimes some funders would give you as a certain percentage of your overall cost. So if your project cost is 10 million, some funders can decide to give you 15% as your administrative cost.
Yeah.
Some other funders may decide to give you 20% as your administrative cost. But in your breakdown, you need to be sincere enough to say that I only want you to cover the rent for 6 months, 7 months, which is in line with the duration of the project, right? So, when you look at it from that angle, it helps you understand that you don't need to be putting all your cost on the funder. Then the second thing is, the truth be told, and this is not because I'm a part of Art Foundation, but I would like to say that so far, the kind of structure we have in place, I don't think there are any other donor or funder within the African, that I think I know of, anyways, let me not be too emphatic, that I think I know of that does the kind of support that ACT Foundation gives to smaller nonprofits. And this is because the people at the top of affairs, they've had backgrounds with smaller nonprofits, so they understand in-depthly the challenges that bewilders smaller nonprofits. So for ACT Foundation, we don't support, in quotes, the big nonprofit as you may want to put it. In fact, right from 2017, I can categorically tell you that a lot of the nonprofits we supported coming from 2017, a major part of it, has always been smaller nonprofits, without the right kind of structure in place. But we know that with our support and guidance and advice, they can grow. And you can go and look at the records, right from 2017. Wow. I can count, a number of them that we have supported that, they started with just volunteers when they came on board the ACT Foundation program. They were just volunteers. They had just volunteers, even down to the CU. They were all volunteers in that. In fact, sometimes you find some of these organizations not having an office space. So they are just, making use of a makeshift, sharing space with, another business. And, when we came on board, brought some of them on board, we had to look at them, look at their program. Yes, your program is good, so why are you not succeeding? And that is the ACT Foundation structure. We want to ensure that, we want to leave this sector better than we met it. And that is what the CEO of ACT Foundation has always been pushing in the forefront. We need to be, this sector needs to be better and bigger than us, if you understand what I mean. And for that reason, most of our resources are pushed towards ensuring that we grow smaller nonprofits. But, that is one side of the divide. The other side is those smaller nonprofits also needs to step up their game.
Yeah.
They need to step up their game. If ACT Foundation was to come halfway to say we want to invest in you, are you putting your best in ensuring that relationship continues? Which is why if you look at our structure, so to say, we usually would say we want to just support you for 1 year. And after 1 year, we want to see how well you can do. We want to see what you would do with that support we've given to you for 1 year. 1 year is a lot of time for any organization to put together the right structure, if the organization understands what they are doing well. I would like to leave it at that. I'm sure this conversation can continue after now.
Yes.
But for the sake of time, so that we can take up other things.
We still have some questions that we need to answer. We have Livingstone Odero. Okay. Your hands are up. I think it's Livingstone from Kenya. Kindly unmute yourself and ask your question. And I want to appeal to everyone who would need to delay the conversation to like 15 minutes extra so we can answer your question. Yeah. And you really have valuable insight into how to strengthen the quality of your work. So Livingstone, kindly go ahead and ask your question or make a comment.
Well, thank you, Ruki. I appreciate this opportunity.
You're welcome.
And also through the presentation that we have so far had in terms of starting with the keys to success. Now, I wanted to touch base a little bit about the area on sustainability, as the presenter already mentioned, and then also around innovation. Now, when we're talking about innovation, I think most of the donors, they are not actually asking us to invent something new. They're only asking us that what can we do different from what activities we are doing or the program or what we are implementing? What is the new idea that you are bringing it in? Because you are the one who is implementing that particular project. Not every donor actually has the ability to understand what especially you are doing, but in areas which we have been taken through, it is always a very important area that we need to also look into. Another area that is normally also a challenge or a problem is the area around literature review, because as OJ has mentioned that poorly reviewed literature also makes a donor to knock you down. And that is basically because you are not actually linking anything to their area of work.
Interest.
So that is also another, because you have brought in an issue, and this issue is not clearly stated, or it is not linked properly to how it's supposed to be actually connected to what you want to do or what your organization is doing. So you find that this area also is another deathbed that also waits for most of those organizations that do great work in the community, and they fail to inject in good ideas. Also, in the area of sustainability, we have, I think, in my own assessment, we have 3 levels of sustainability. There is the financial sustainability, there is also the community sustainability, and the organization sustainability. So in community sustainability, it addresses the issue of how well the project is rooted in the community. And it also describes how the community will continue with the project. Once there is no more financial, I think the way Ogias mentioned, support from the donor, this part also, it has been recognized as very important in last decades, as in if it is going to be implemented alongside your project. And then financial sustainability describes the ability of your project to survive financially. I think that one, you have also mentioned that once this project has ended, so what will happen then next? And then you remember, you also, as an organization, just as we have been told that you also look at your organization the way it is. Organizational sustainability describes the ability of your organization as a whole to survive, being the issue that we have been taken through about the board structures, the policies, area around social media presence, and then the team structures. All these things, they play around a very important role when it comes to donors, because the donors want to establish a long-lasting partnership. So they want to know if your organization will still be there in 10 years to come. So I think that is my contribution. I wanted to contribute that. And Rookie, thank you so much. I know you have created a very good
thank
platform.
You for that
and
valuable contribution. Wow, amazing. And we have Mohammed Husseini. Mohammed Husseini, kindly unmute yourself and ask your question or make your contribution, I think in 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Coach. Thank you, Mr. Ayodeji. So my question still goes around sustainability. So the first question is, how do you know whether a project deserves to continue? That's number 1. Number 2, where I work, as in around the sector I work, it has to do with health sector. And whenever we design a project and that we want to do, everything still, for continuity, it still falls down availability of funds. So unlike maybe, for example, maybe empowerment programs or educational programs, like, okay, you train a particular, for continuity, you train a particular resident in a community so as to help other people to catch up with the program, or to be like a source of trainer so as to just continue in that particular. But on health matters, it's quite different because it has to do with professionalism. And most of the health cases we try to address in our organization. For example, we usually do cataract surgery and eye screening exercise for people for free. So how do we make sure that there's a source of sustainability for it to continue? Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. So your first question is quite interesting, and I want to use the word implemental syndrome. So this is because you are the one designing and implementing. It sort of blocks your vision for you to see what other ways this can be done differently. So let me take the same example you gave within the health area, which is one of the aspects that we support as a foundation. We support, under the health area, we support cancer, and under cancer, we do cervical, prostate, and breast cancer. We also support malaria, any implementation around the malaria and maternal and child health. Those are the areas we support on our health thematic area. And so if you look at interventions that have been, implemented across these various areas, you would notice that a lot of funders these days are basically shying away from awareness-related programs. So you just say your program wants to create awareness, your program wants to educate this, your program wants to educate that. The big question is, which is where sustainability starts coming in. The big question is, after you create that awareness and educate the people, what happens next? Will there be a difference in that problem that you first identified? Will there be a difference? Would anything shift? When you ask yourself that question, then you start thinking of how do we make our intervention sustainable over time? What else should we add to it? Just like the other contributor from Kenya said, what else should we add? There is no new solution today. All solutions are old solutions being implemented in a different way. So you are asking yourself the very big question, what should we add to this initiative to make it a bit more interesting to the funder? So you can't just tell me that everything lies on funding. No, it's not possible. It is not possible. You can't say everything lies on funding. Not everything lies on funding. The first thing is your initiative in itself needs to stand the test of time for any funder to know. So let me put it again this way. You're going to a community, you want to implement XYZ in the area of health, right? You've identified the problem already. The solution you're bringing, is it just to screen them and give them glasses? Yes, that is one way. But will that really solve the problem for the upcoming generation, the people who are behind? The younger ones who do not have that problem right now. Will that problem exist after your intervention? So, the whole idea about funding an intervention or you going to communities to make life better is because you want to make a difference. Until you start thinking about your program being sustainable beyond you. So for example, you need to trace that problem to a root cause. You want to change that root cause. Now, changing that root cause may be mind shifts. You want to shift something. You want to shift either their thinking pattern, or you notice that within the community, the women who are very prevalent with this high defect are always seen cooking with either cooking utensils that produces smoke, and that affects the eye, for example. You now want to go down beyond you just treating the eye defect. You now want to go down towards helping the women change their lifestyle. So, before money, the idea needs to be sellable. The idea needs to be in a way that people can invest in it. So, and that is how you need to look at it. You need to look at it from that angle. It is not always about money. It is not always about money. The initiative in itself needs to be sustainable. The idea, the creativity you're putting into it needs to be sustainable. So, and that's the angle we can. This sustainability is a conversation on its own.
Yes.
That I hope we may have the opportunity to.
Yes, would continue to have a conversation that is tailored around sustainability. Because like we were discussing earlier this morning, I talked about how almost all of the proposal templates being provided by all funders now have a strong segment on you demonstrating the sustainability of that particular project and even yourself as an organization. So I think it's very expedient in our follow-up classes, follow-up programs like this would tailor to ensure that we're looking at sustainability closely. We also have a couple of hands raised. Nkem Wobu, you can unmute yourself and ask your question or make your comments in one.
Okay, thank you very much, Rukewe, and thank you, Mr. Ayodeji. It's been very insightful. Just one question. The other person who are commenting, he mentioned 3 types of sustainability. financial sustainability and community sustainability. So he was saying, my question is, what if after you have done all of that, you've gotten funding, your sustainability plan you have put in place, and when you were talking about sustainability plan, you mentioned that it has to be in such a way that the community takes full ownership of that initiative. And then you mentioned donors and funders going back to carry out impact assessments, maybe 4 to 5 years after the project must have ended. Now, my question is, what if in a community where an organization has carried out a project, you've put in plan all the sustainability, the community sustainability. At this point, financial sustainability may no longer be as much as it was when the project was ongoing because the funding has ended. And then 4 years, 5 years down the line, the funders go for impact assessment. And then they discover that somehow the community just maybe 2 years down the line, they abandoned that initiative. I know this may tell bad on the organization, but what would you say in that regard? What can be done in that regard for the organization? Because posterity's sake, they are still going to seek for funding from other organizations for more projects and initiatives. What are they supposed to do in that regard?
Thank you very much. Quickly, I'm sure Rukawa would share more insight on that, maybe after now. But one of the things that that I would like to say strongly you must do is ensure that your stakeholder management, right from the very design of the project or initiative, is looked into. So you must factor in the community as a major subset of the program, being a major stakeholder of the program, because don't forget, long after you go, the initiative in itself is not for you. It's to better or change a situation within that community. So, and as such, you need to design your program in view of the community members. So, you need to think of the people within that community first. You need to understand who they are. They need to know who you are. You need to create a relationship that helps them, such that 5 years after you're gone, if the funder goes to the community and meets with the community head and says, oh, do you know XYZ from this particular year? The community leader can easily say, oh, we know them. Their project was fantastic. In fact, this was what they did. See, once the community leader can narrate what you did, then you know that there's a level of ownership on that project. As against when the funder goes back 1 year after the project was completed, and the funder says, do you know these people? And the community leader is saying, which people are you talking about? I don't know anybody. Nobody came. And in your report, you already stated that the community leader to say was a major part of the project. So you need to look at this, thin line here and there and be very sure of what you're reporting and what you're telling your funder. You need to also state clearly what you did and how you did it. Challenges you are facing, we know that there are bound to be challenges. So you need to, stick to and say, we're facing challenges in trying to get community members buy into the project. You need to state it clearly. All these things would help you, manage, not totally eradicate, but it would manage to a greater extent how the community takes ownership of the project.
Okay. Wow. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. We have about
Thank you very much
in the chat area. So we'll quickly go over that. The first question is from Tolu. She is asking what can be done about inactive board members.
Board members. Yes. So you should politely go back to them and either reignite their passion to become active, or you can request, if they seem to be too busy at this point in time, they can recommend, politely recommend, somebody else to take over that position, or, because you really don't know why they've been inactive. And that is the reason why you must keep in touch with your board. You're not just setting a board for setting sake. Your board must meet at least twice a year. You know, some other body of knowledge would say at least 3 times a year. So that covers for almost every quarter, right? But if you're unable to get almost every other quarter, right, you should be able to get, you know, twice a year, the beginning of the year and the closing, you know, the closeouts for the year, to be able to show them what you set out to do at the beginning of your program and what you eventually achieved at the end of your program. And, you know, other challenges you encountered in the course of the year, when you share it with them, they will give you, you know, very good advice for planning the next, you know, program year. You know, so it is very important you look at it from that angle. If you have anybody who is inactive, you know, kindly do a very, you know, sweet, nice, polite letter to them, or request to meet with them in person. And, you know, because they are giving you their time for free, so you must manage that time wisely. So, you know, you want to sit with them. Sometimes you may even go out of your way. If that board member is someone who is very busy, you may go out of your way to always visit the person at the office, just to sit down and give the person update. That may just be the only way you manage that relationship, because you never tell. The person may be sitting on another program that is maybe, you know, maybe a United Nations program, and the person is privy to certain information, and they're asking, do you know any organization that can do this? And the person is saying, yes, I know one organization, and the person can just recommend your organization to be part of that opportunity.
Yes.
These are the various opportunities that board, you know, your board structure can bring to the growth of your organization.
Wow.
Yes.
Thank you for that. And one more question. I think this question is coming from Abdul Hafiz from Kenya. He's saying, can 2 or more organizations partner from different countries to apply for a single funding opportunity?
So, you know, some of these things, there are no easy way out of it. I would always say, always do your research around what that funder requires. Some funders will say no, some funders will say yes. So if you're asking me as a person, I can tell you categorically that yes, it is possible. However, because I do not have the whole money in my possession, right, I can't speak categorically on that question. So what I would say is, do your homework, research more about that funder where you're requesting for funding from, and, you know, check out what they want you to know or do when you're applying for grants. And when you're not clear, you can always shoot them an email and request for more clarity on certain areas before you apply, just to be sure. But left to me, yes, it's very possible. Axe Foundation has funded, you know, organizations, 2 different organizations that have partnered together to implement a particular project. You know, yes, we would do that. But don't forget again, the organization you want to partner with, you need to understand their history. You need to know where they are coming from. You need to know that they don't have any shady dealings that can sort of disqualify you. So, yeah, so they may disqualify you not because you have a problem, but because the organization you want to partner with has some uncleared issues that are hanging. So you need to understand all of these things. Sorry, Rukewe, if that's the last thing, I wanted to just quickly mention the importance of social media footprint. I know I talked about it.
Yes.
But, you know, finally from me, I need everyone to understand that we're in the technology age. And as such, I can tell you, a 5-year-old is already having a social media account.
Yeah, sure.
You know, playing around with phones already. So how much more an organization that is doing, you know, great work like you? You don't have any excuse not to have a social media page. It is your footprint into time, such that when a funder finds anything interesting about you, the first background check they do is through social media. Let us see the footprint you've left, on your social media platform. Let us see how you're telling your story. Let us see what you're saying about your program, and from that way, the funder may just get enough information that they need about you to be able to support you. So it's very important. Yes. So you need to take note of it.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I have benefited immensely from growing my presence online. A lot of opportunities even outside of the country, just because I became very intentional about my presence online. So it's very critical for us as non-profit leaders to become very deliberate about our presence, especially in this new age. Post-COVID has forced a lot of businesses, a lot of corporate organizations to begin to do work differently. So in the past, maybe in your project, we were spending money on traditional media like radio programs and TV and all of that. Now, the social media really brings a very cost-effective, almost at zero cost, opportunity for you to grow your visibility quickly and also build credibility. So thank you very much, Mr. Ayo. Thank you. My eternal gratitude to ACT Foundation for this privileged opportunity, honoring our invitation to speak to our leaders across Africa on how they can become more grant ready. And we're hopeful that when we call again for other topics, especially, we can see the conversation a lot tilting towards sustainability, because it's a pain point for all of us. We really want to know, what does the funder want in terms of sustainability? How can we present our interventions? How can we craft our interventions and design our programs that in a way it is sustainable, it brings better opportunities to even generations after us, and we can really bring transformation to our community. Like you said, at the end of the day, how are we creating a shift in the conditions of the people in the community that we serve? So thank you very much, everyone that has joined. We see people joined in from Uganda, Kenya, Ghana, and Nigeria. Thank you so much for staying to the end of the conversation. We will have more open learning opportunities like this, and as we go on. So we have our presence online. You can join us on our social media pages, our WhatsApp and Telegram channels. We're deciding to use Telegram channel more often to create a broader community and also better engagement for our community members. So thank you very much. Go check the website of ACT Foundation. You heard Ayodeji spoke about funding work in areas of entrepreneurship, leadership, health, and which other program area again?
Environment.
And the environment. And that we have lots of community members doing work around health and the environment. So this is an opportunity. Check the website, look at the guidelines, study the funding circle. When do they normally open up the call for proposal? So do your research. We've gotten a lot of insights from this conversation today, and would continue to have more engagement like this. Even our premium program still offers opportunities to really strengthen your work. So ACT Foundation, check the website. I think it's actrustfoundation.org, if I'm correct. actrustfoundation.org. Just, it's a large organization. Just type ACT Foundation on Google, you'd see a lot of triggers on their website and social media pages. Check the organization, follow their pages, so you can always get notifications about open funding opportunities. So thank you very much. For a lot of people that mentioned that they had serious internet issues, we'll try to make the recording available to the community. Thank you so much for joining us. Special thanks to our friends at ACT Foundation for this opportunity. I hope when we come calling again, the doors will be open.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm very sure about that. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you, Roki.
You're welcome.
And Ojo.
Okay, you can check the chat area for the website. It's just been dropped here. www.acfoundation.org.
Bye.
Hi, Mohammed.
Bye.
Bye.
Hi, Ruki. I just joined.
Hello, Mohammed.
I just joined, and I really appreciate the small portion I got from our friend from ACT Foundation.
Oh, amazing. We'll make the recording available most likely before the end of the day, or maybe by tomorrow. The recording will be up so that everyone can have access to it.
I really thank you very much.
You're
From
welcome.
the Gambia. Learned a lot from the presentation.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Have a lovely day. See you.
Yes,
Thank you.
You too. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much, Foundation. Thank you very much, Ukewe. God bless you.
God bless you too.